What if the deadliest war in human history wasn't supposed to happen? What if, instead of a single spark, it was a chain reaction, set off by pride, fear, and a world that refused to learn from its mistakes? World War II didn't appear out of thin air. It wasn't just one dictator or one bad decision. It was decades of tension, humiliation, and revenge, all building until the entire planet exploded in chaos. And here's the chilling part, almost everyone saw it coming, but no one stopped it. Let's uncover how the world's biggest promise, never again, turned into its darkest nightmare. When the guns of World War I finally fell silent in 1918, the world was exhausted. Cities were rubble, millions were dead, generations were scarred. Politicians, soldiers, and citizens alike swore that nothing like that could ever happen again. But behind that hope, something dangerous was already brewing. Europe was broken, not just physically, but emotionally. The war had created wounds so deep that they couldn't be healed by peace treaties or good intentions. Britain and France were triumphant but drained. The United States withdrew back across the Atlantic. And Germany, once powerful, now beaten, was left to carry the blame for everything. People thought punishing Germany would secure peace. In reality, it did the exact opposite. They hadn't ended all wars. They'd just written the opening lines of the next one. The Treaty of Versailles was supposed to bring peace. Instead, it brought resentment. Germany was forced to pay impossible reparations, billions in today's money, while its land, colonies, and pride were stripped away. Its army was dismantled, its people were starving. To the outside world, this was justice, but to Germans, it was humiliation. Factories closed, bread cost millions of marks. Families carried wheelbarrows of cash just to buy food. And in every tavern, every classroom, every crumbling street, one question echoed: how could they do this to us? That feeling, the mix of anger and humiliation, didn't disappear. It fermented. And when bitterness ferments long enough, it becomes poison. The Treaty of Versailles didn't prevent another war, it made one inevitable. Because when a nation loses everything, it eventually decides it has nothing left to lose. The 1920s were supposed to be the world's recovery decade. Instead, chaos spread like wildfire. The Great Depression shattered economies. Banks collapsed, families went hungry, people everywhere lost faith in democracy. And when people stopped believing in moderation, they turned to extremes. Communism promised equality, fascism promised pride. And in a world desperate for certainty, both sounded appealing. In Germany, something even darker was forming. A small, angry political group began shouting that Germany's suffering wasn't an accident, it was betrayal. They blamed politicians, outsiders, and minorities. And at the center of it all stood a man who could turn anger into applause: Adolf Hitler. At first, no one took him seriously. He was just another loud voice in a crowded room. But that was the world's first mistake. Because when you ignore hatred long enough, it starts to sound reasonable. The Weimar Republic, Germany's fragile democracy, was on life support. Inflation destroyed savings, jobs vanished, food became scarce. People didn't care about politics anymore. They just wanted someone to blame, and someone to fix it. That's when Hitler moved from the sidelines to the spotlight. He promised to rebuild the country, restore pride, and punish those who betrayed Germany. His words were poison wrapped in hope, and millions drank it. By the early 1930s, the Nazi Party had gone from a fringe movement to a national force. And in 1933, Hitler became chancellor. Within months, he dismantled democracy and silenced opposition. The world barely noticed, too many outside Germany, it was an internal matter. But inside, a monster had been born, one that would soon devour Europe. And by the time anyone realized what he truly wanted, it was already too late. The 1930s were a decade of denial. Hitler rebuilt Germany's army, breaking the Versailles Treaty openly. He reoccupied the Rhineland in 1936, no one stopped him. He annexed Austria in 1938, the world shrugged. Every time he pushed, the world stepped back. Britain's Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain believed he could bargain with Hitler, that giving him what he wanted would satisfy him. He even returned from a meeting in Munich waving a piece of paper, declaring peace for our time. But peace built on fear isn't peace. It's surrender with better lighting. Every ignored warning, every excuse, every delay, it all taught Hitler the same lesson: no one would stop him. And so, his demands grew bolder, his armies grew stronger. The world kept sleeping, until the nightmare kicked down the door. While Europe's storm clouds darkened, another was forming on the other side of the planet. Japan, victorious but disrespected after World War I, felt cheated by its allies. Its leaders believed that Western powers treated them as inferior, denying them the colonies and resources they deserved. Then came the Great Depression, and Japan's economy collapsed. Militarists seized control, promising to restore Japan's honor and build a self-sufficient empire. In 1931, Japan invaded Manchuria, a region of China rich in resources. The world protested, but did nothing. By 1937, Japan launched a full-scale war against China, committing atrocities that shocked even seasoned diplomats. And still, the League of Nations, the world's supposed peacekeeper, stayed silent. While Europe ignored Hitler, it also ignored Japan. And both were learning the same thing: you can do whatever you want when no one's willing to stop you. Two storms, half a world apart, were now spinning toward each other. And when they collided, the entire world would burn. August 1939. Europe is holding its breath. Hitler has already taken Austria and Czechoslovakia. Now, he demands Poland. But this time, Britain and France promise to defend it. Then, in a shocking twist, Germany signs a secret pact with the Soviet Union, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. The two rivals agree to divide Eastern Europe between them. Days later, German tanks roll into Poland, bombs fall, cities burn. And the world's second Great War begins. Britain and France declare war, but they're too late. The plan that started with humiliation and denial now ends in blood and fire. By the time the first shots echoed, the truth was clear. World War II didn't begin in 1939. It began the moment the world stopped defending peace. Here's the haunting question: could it all have been prevented? The answer: maybe, if the Treaty of Versailles had rebuilt instead of punished. If the League of Nations had acted with courage instead of words. If world leaders had confronted Hitler before he became unstoppable. Then maybe millions of lives could have been saved. But history isn't just written by what people do, it's written by what they refuse to do. World leaders didn't stumble into war, they sleepwalked into it, eyes open, hearts closed, too afraid to act. And the same cycle played out across continents. Humiliation led to hate. Hate led to power, and power, left unchecked, led to catastrophe. The truth is, World War II wasn't inevitable. It was allowed to happen, because peace doesn't die in battle. It dies quietly, in meetings, in silence, and in the moments when people look away. When you trace the story of World War II, it's not just a story about nations. It's a story about people, their pride, their pain, their fear, and their refusal to let go of the past. The world wanted peace, but it wanted revenge more. And that's why the Second Great War began, not with a bang, but with a whisper that the world refused to hear. So maybe the real lesson isn't about who started the war, but who didn't stop it. If peace can die that quietly once, how safe are we now? If you learned something new, hit like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments, do you think history could repeat itself? Because sometimes, the past isn't finished with us yet.